Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new interview from MinnMax. MinnMax is a place about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hansen. Thank you for being here. Today's interview is all about the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. We have William Pugh, who's the game's director, and we have Dominic Johann, who's the art director from Crows, Crows, Crows. And we're also joined, it's a double whammy interview, we're also joined by Jacob Geller, YouTube essayist extraordinaire and MinnMax contributor, and it's a larger discussion about all of the secrets within the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. So there are spoilers for Ultra Deluxe in this interview, scattered throughout. This is kind of a tricky one to talk about. So if you've never played the Stanley Parable, you absolutely should. And all of the content from the Stanley Parable is available in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. So just go play that if you enjoy comedic experiences. Think of a Portal without the puzzles. Try to get a rough sense. A very meta, fun experience, right? Then, if you've played the Stanley Parable, but you've never played Ultra Deluxe because you thought it was just kind of the console port, it is not. It is a lot more than that. Without spoiling anything, you should jump in and play the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. It is aware of what you think it is, and that is what the game is about, and it is fascinating and bizarre. There are a lot of interesting details in this interview. We hope you enjoy it. I don't want to spoil any of them here because it's your last warning to go away if you have not played the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. If you enjoy this type of content, we'd appreciate it if you subscribe to MinnMax on YouTube, help share it with a friend. If you just are a fan of long-form video game interviews, I don't think there's too many folks out there doing them the way that MinnMax is doing it. So check out our playlist, see the other interviews like it. Again, any help spreading the word is appreciated. And you can help support MinnMax directly and unlock the podcast version of all of our interviews, Deepest Dives, Max Spoilers, a bunch of other stuff by going to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. And you can get that podcast version right in your favorite podcast app. It doesn't need to be playing through the Patreon app or anything like that if you don't want it to. It can be very convenient. All right, without further ado, here's William and Dom. William and Dom, thanks for being here, folks.
Hey, Internet.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Internet. Also, Jacob Geller, contributor to MinnMax, thank you for being here.
I am so glad to be here.
Yeah, where was it? Was it on the podcast or was it offline where I was trying to stress to you like, I think it was just over Slack. Like, I cannot wait for you to play Stanley Parable.
About it on the podcast, and then I was just writing in our Slack. I was like, I like this game more now than I did playing the Stanley Parable when it came out, which is my big take on. The jump cut is always going to get me. Yeah, I love this game.
It is so good. I'm sure you're all sick of this game. You've been working on it for so long, especially William. I mean, this has just consumed your adult life, is just dealing with the Stanley Parable. So all humor and fun must be stripped of this thing at this point, right?
When I was 17, I made a very good game. And then, it's been over 10 years. Yeah. I actually found a response to the original Reddit AMA where someone in 2013 asked, wouldn't it be funny if you, because the 2013 version was a remake of the mod. Yeah. They were like, what would you do next? And I was like, remake it again. Just kidding. I would never ever fucking do that. They couldn't pay me enough.
And now here we are. You can't get away from it. Well, congratulations on making a hell of a thing. You all really did it. It is such a delight. And I don't know if you've been fascinated by it and you're tickled by it as a team or frustrated by just the messaging of it. Like calling it the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, I understand is part of the charm and the humor of it, but at the same time, it's almost self-defeating when you're trying to message it and market it to people to be like, no, it's called the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, but it's about the fact that we know that Stanley Parable was beloved. And it just, what is that like to try and message a thing that in itself is a joke?
Well, I think the central tenet of the studio is to try and kind of under-promise but over-deliver. Yeah. In terms of what we've been putting out. I think Dom here does so much of our wonderful trailer work, is our video director, editor, kind of visual all-around art director. So like, how many trailers did we do for this thing, Dom? Like 5, I think, at least?
Probably about 5 in total.
Over the
Plus
course,
minus 1,
yeah, over the course of like 2018 to 2022. There's like a lot of you've got to kind of keep. It's like a multi-year long game of trying to keep a ball off the ground. You kick it really hard, it flies up for a while, and then it starts to come down again, and you're like, oh, we gotta announce the delay. We gotta keep. How do you keep? It became the problem of how do you talk about it without giving any information away,
right?
And while holding on to all our cards and
we sent probably 10, 12 newsletters about while this game was in development, and none of them had any actual information about the game because it's all in the game itself. But for us, the journey of experiencing the game really starts when you first hear about it, and then you get these weird emails that don't really tell you anything about what it means. And then you start thinking, okay, 3 years delay, there has to be something in there, right? And in that way, we really just put a lot of faith in the audience that they'll sort of get it. And even though it's one of those deluxe edition games on Steam, and there's, hundreds of those, there's always a little bit of a wink of an eye in there, and people really seem to get that messaging, even if it's just heavily implied.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's catching on, Jacob Geller? Do you feel like enough people have got the message that, hey, this is a whole thing that you need to experience?
I hope so. To me, it feels almost like what was Glitter Mitten Grove when it was Frog Fractions 2 or whatever, of kind of trying to message like, no, you just buy it. Like, I don't want to spoil any of the stuff for you because, I mean, as we've said, we're doing full spoilers. We're going to spoil the whole game. Like, the punchline of reaching the Stanley Parable 2, after you've been playing this new one for about 15-20 minutes, is such a kind of as a player, like, oh, I really didn't understand what this thing was until now, and then continuing to play it and being like, wait, I still don't know if I fully understand what this is.
So mission accomplished, you guys?
Well, I think in terms of the business of it, it's selling better than the original game.
That's awesome.
Sold launch, which was always kind of the metric of like looking at it, and it's like, is this going to have the same kind of reach? Is it going to be just for the super hardcore fans of the original, or is that like it was like how much? It was always a question of like, you want to make the experience valid as like a replay of the original game, or like a fresh experience of that for new people, and also for old returning players. I think we're about to hit, or we have just hit 300,000 copies sold on Steam.
That's awesome.
And then if you add up all of the consoles together, that's in the six figures as well. And
so now you're all millionaires, and that's the end of the story?
No.
Oh, is that the way it works?
What? Why not?
Oh, I suppose it. Well, I can't. I don't want to think about.
He paused. He paused.
So I was watching when we talked about making 5 trailers. There's that original trailer from 2018 where, amongst other things, money is raining down from the ceiling into the office. When you made that trailer, was the idea that says 2019 at the end? Like, I guess one of the things I'm most curious about is like how much of this was like how much did you have an idea of what the game was going to be, and it just took longer than you thought because game development is hard, and how much was kind of like continuing to increase the amount of game there was?
Well, I guess we fully believed what we said there at the start, and things happen. This coronavirus came rolling into town. The game itself that started as a basic part of the Stanley Parable. Suddenly we started having ideas about it, and that was a huge factor in delaying it. We recognized quickly, there's like so many interesting things we can do with this, and with the format of the remaster, that it sort of spiraled. But I think it was the right call in the end, because whatever smaller version of it we could have made, wouldn't have had the same effect, or it would have just been a port, and in that way, it wouldn't do nearly as much of the interesting stuff that it does now.
So
I think the timing has got more it's got more ripe in terms of the atmosphere for it to be released into as well.
Right.
It was a lovely coincidence that like the week after it came out, Overwatch 2 kind of resurfaced in the general brain space of talking about games, and I saw the lighting change on the maps going viral, and then there was also earlier in the year when the Grand Theft Auto remaster came out, and that was really, people were being like, this re-release remaster, then it started to feel like, okay, this is maybe going to land at the right time. We did believe that it was going to we were going to launch in 2019. We actually praise us from the past. We have we found a full playthrough of all of the new content from 2019, just like a straight record of all of the state of the game that it was then.
Yeah.
And I think in the future we want to try and we'll put that live and pull back the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that content on the Crows YouTube.
And on the Crows community Discord, and most importantly, the Crows newsletter, crows.com.
So how
also, weirdly, another incidental thing that happened is Dying Light 2, I think, also blew up a little bit recently, and that also has a red number 2 in the title, and just so many weird
interesting
planets aligning right now for us. It's great.
How you don't have to spoil everything in that playthrough from 2019, but how different is it overall? Are people going to be surprised? Is it a lot simpler?
There's there's a lot of core content that's similar. I think there's at least one ending that's completely different. No, there's 2 endings that are pretty significantly different, and then you can see like the really early version of the Memory Zone, like an entirely different version of the Stanley Parable 2 Expo Hall,
right,
and all of that, and there was some cut features from the Expo Hall that are still in the 2019 version, but there's also a lot that just is not in there in any kind of shape or form.
Yeah. Can you talk about the history of this game, just for the writing and working with Davey Reedon, and how is it collaboration? I know you guys go back a long ways, but for this specific project, how has that relationship evolved?
So it started when, I'm going to speed through this because otherwise it's a long 6-year story.
Sure.
We were originally, me and Davey, talking about Stanley Parable 2013, really cool, lots of people like it. Let's port it to PlayStation 4. That's a good, simple way to make some money, and to, it's what people do with successful indie games.
Yeah.
We were shopping around for different teams because it was on the Source engine. There was no PS4 Source export option, so it was either okay, we rebuild it all in Unity, or we try and hire a team of programmers who can get this thing running on something we had no experience doing.
Totally.
Crows had done some Unity work on Accounting Plus, Dr. Langeskov, all of our previous things, so I knew a bit about that. We got it basically ported over to Unity in a form where it still needed some polish, and then what we did was we sat down and we were like, okay, well, we need to change some of the achievements. We need to change some of the museum narrator's dialogue about pressing escape and hitting quit. We need to change some re-record. So we were already re-recording stuff, and then that was like a little toe in the water. Then the foot in the water was like, okay, some new endings. Let's do some new endings. Put some new content in there, and then the whole leg was like, okay, maybe some more, and then it was like, okay, well, the whole Crows team will come on and we'll finish it up and we'll do the publishing, and porting and development of all the new content, and then it just became its whole new thing. I
have to be ready for 1 minute.
Okay.
So then, sorry. Me and Davey, we were talking about that, and we started pitching ideas of what would be cool, what would be funny to like revisit. We also had some cut endings from the original game that we'd never really kind of talked about publicly that we thought we could kind of work in there in some way. And then we ended up having to codify that for like a contract and like a co-development agreement. And so then, you start hammering nails in, and then more sprout up, and it just expanded and expanded.
Did it feel just dropped from my Stanley Parable money? Sorry.
Is it a case of just realizing, this project, we could do so much more? This is maybe too abstract and silly of a question, but do you feel like you kind of fell in love with Stanley Parable again while working on this? Like, was it exciting?
Giving you that quote. I'm not giving you that quote. No,
but was it kind of exciting? Of like, there is so much more to do. It turns out we can squeeze this lemon so much harder. No love.
It's not like it was exciting, but it wasn't like. I can't wait to get back into the Stanley Parable project from when I was 17 to 19.
Yeah.
And get back into the logic and the program, navigate. It was kind of like, I think, if it wasn't a port of a Source Engine game, it would have been done faster.
Right.
I think.
Right.
It's not, I wouldn't characterize it as like a completely easy creative dance down the street where it was no problems with, the project whatsoever. But,
obviously. So it's been a slog.
I think a really interesting angle is, so for me, I heard about Stanley Parable when the mod dropped in 2011, I think. And then I played 2013 as a fan. So I had the experience of, being a gamer rather than a developer. But then later on, going in the project and seeing how things work, like what are the mechanics at play. And there's definitely a lot of magic gets lost once you understand how things work.
Right.
In terms of, okay, this thing is actually just a random number thing that happens every now and then. This is how things are layered in. This is the progression of things. But at the same time, it felt so cool to be able to add to that. And I think ultimately that's kind of what the game is about, is to take this perfect, precious thing and then come rolling in with your clown car and just smearing paint all over it. So that felt really good to me. And
I think
trying to kind of hit the tone of that as well. Yeah, just aligning new content to the vibe of the old game was really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I think initially when it was like, okay, all of Crows is going to come on and do it. We sat down and came up with some just like one sentence long pitches for endings. And Dom had one, which was, Stanley falls down an infinite hole. So I remember that's something you can attribute. And then like when that came back from the script and there's the whole falling sequence and the whole all of the stuff that's down there, getting to jam on that with Dom and with Tom Schley, our composer, as well, was just super cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really amazing how it changes from Davy's Google Doc with dialogue and stage directions into that thing goes through the Crow's prism, and on the other end it's just like whatever's going on in our fricked up heads makes it something that you can play. And that felt really cool to see. It sort of evolved from an A4 page into 20 minutes of gameplay. Super cool.
Do you feel like the Infinite Hold On is the thing you're most proud of for like a specific contribution other than the overall art, right?
I think my proudest contribution is the Bottom of the Mind Control Facility song. I got to play guitar and sing on
so
that.
Good.
It used to be a bug,
No,
and then we made it an ending. But yeah, the whole is great, and I think the overall aligning a Unity game's look with the Source Engine.
Yeah,
I think we really nailed that, and that's probably what I'm proudest of in terms of visuals. Yeah.
It was Yeah, like it was a mammoth job getting that in line and having it feel the same. There's a lot of levers backstage to get that feeling right.
Oof.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the boundary break video, William, that I think you were on, and talking about the kind of like the whole system of portals of kind of like it looks like this is just a continuous hallway, but in fact you're like, you know, completely going into a different place. And one of the reasons that's so fascinating to like me, someone who doesn't make games, is that this seems fairly, you know, as games go, it's like, well, it's a game where you walk down hallways. Like, this does not seem like the most complicated thing in the world. And then to kind of get a peek behind the scenes and be like, oh no, actually it is the most complicated thing in the world. This is so much more complex than I ever would have suspected.
Yeah, like the thing is, the Source Engine branch that we built the original one was the Portal 2 branch that we licensed from Valve. So with that, you have like a battle-tested portal system in place that a lot of the original game's timing and kind of set pieces rely heavily upon. And then when you're translating that to a new engine or to a different engine that doesn't have that stuff natively built in, you have to reconstruct that effect and have it work not just on PC, but on all different platforms and on something like the Nintendo Switch, and have it look good and have it appear seamless. Because it's like the whole portal system it's like stage magic. It looks really simple, and it has to feel like you're just walking through. There can't be like a frame drop. It can't look weird from a certain angle. And there was so much labor put in with like, oh, the portals break in this kind of edge case where you walk forward and backwards, or if you turn around and walk through them backwards, you get like a frame smear.
Stuff breaks so easily in this engine. Yeah, like if you look at the portal wrong, everything collapses. And in the end, it's like 50 cameras in your level that are all, you know, filming a corridor and then rendering that to a texture that's on top of a plane that's in the door, and
but you only want to do that when it's time to do that, because you can't be doing that when it's not necessary, and like
and determining in the end, you're setting up 50 Roadrunner tunnels basically, and lying to people 60 times a second.
And what seems particularly really challenging is that like this is a game that people are essentially trying to break more than almost any other game I can think of. You know, it's like the escape pod ending or whatever. Like there are endings that essentially like need you to do things that feel like you're breaking the game. And so then if someone inadvertently broke it, then it's like, is this an ending? Is this intended? Is this just a glitch?
Yeah, that's fun.
That's the beauty of it, though. Like we get a lot of messages from people just stuck in weird places, and they're like, am I supposed to do this? Like, does the game know that I'm doing this? And it's sort of forgiving because, either you're just like, yeah, you found an ending, or you add a weird little song to that section and you're good. You don't have to fix it.
That is the weirdest idea of just thinking about the origins of this project. And then with the portal tech, effectively, it's like, okay, you're basically doing some of the hard labor of making a version of Portal 3 for every console. Like just trying to get this thing up and running everywhere. Like what a secret
when I
mess.
saw the advert on the Nintendo presentation for Portal being ported to Nintendo Switch, that felt really heartbreaking.
Because like, we already did
it was like, if only they'd done that a few years ago, we could have just called them up and be like, hey, can we use this engine?
It's like when throughout history, different people invent like the light bulb at the same time, but don't know that they're doing it. That's what happened to us,
when this was first announced, it's like, hey, it's coming to consoles. I certainly expected like, oh, they're going to have console-specific jokes. When we jump to different games, it's going to be jumping to God of War or some nonsense and the highest aspiration. What were those discussions like, William, from your perspective? How far did you go down that road?
We can't talk about a lot of stuff surrounding this because of NDAs. but I'll try my best.
Please.
We love Mario.
Sonic, big fan of Sonic.
Mario should be in more games. That's all I want to say.
Look, I think it's a good political platform.
I think we had a lot of aspirations for it starting out. You can see in the 2019 version, if we don't have to censor it or cut bits out, that there was some very specific console content on there, and not just console content, but like individual console stuff.
Right. That
was going to be happening across multiple endings. And let me tell you, without mentioning any specific one, trying to get approval for that kind of stuff is, even on our scale, just was near impossible to do.
Really?
And it was near impossible to get like stuff where we could align different tracks of consoles to be like down to do the same kinds of jokes. And then, we'd have it fall through on one console, and then that means that we're gonna have to figure out a whole different thing for other consoles. And then there's also like these big companies have different levels of approval.
Yeah.
As well, you have like the people that you contact day to day, and then there's people on different committees that are responsible for like what can and cannot go with their brand, how their brand can be used, and all of this kind of stuff. So we wanted to do more of that, but in the end, we couldn't.
Like, if you're wondering where the line is of what you can do in terms of content in a game related to, brands and brand assets and name dropping, this game is on the line. Like, that's where the line is, pretty much.
Really?
We had to push for some of the stuff in there already, and change stuff around. So there was one platform that about 2 months out from ship saw a video of an unrelated piece that kind of just passed by something minor, and they were like, no, you can't do that thing. You need to re-record that and rewrite that, and that just can't go in there.
God damn.
So yeah, it's like that's the difference between doing stuff with Steam and other like companies, like you know, the Firewatch folks and the Rocket League people were really accommodating, and that's you just need to get approval from them, and Well,
that's what I'm wondering. Like, isn't there some backdoor where you don't need to make jokes about the console itself, but just like, okay, find some game that's exclusive to that console, and then I could just talk to those developers who are human beings and not just a wall of lawyers, and then we could do some specific console stuff in a backdoor way that way?
Well, they own them, the developers. So if you've got an exclusive, then you've got all of that different ownership, and like even on, and also we don't want to be doing like what would that be then, like 6 or 8 different versions if you're doing console specific things and importing all of that. It was hard enough getting Rocket League and Firewatch looking nice on all the platforms.
Well, I was thinking, like, did you choose those games partly because they're available on all those consoles? So you just had to find something. What are 2 games that developers are going to be cool talking to and coordinating this stuff with, and then also it's available on every console?
We did think about Fortnite for a while, but we landed on that being too obvious, or kind of being a bit too... You could see that coming.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I would have seen that coming, to be fair, but that would have been... I mean, did you have conversations?
Let's add it in. We're doing it today.
Yeah. Do you feel like Epic would have been open to that idea?
Pardon?
Would Epic have been open to the idea of including a Fortnite then?
No comment on that.
Interesting. All right. Well, they'll
already signed an NDA 10 seconds ago.
Look, I know game development is a nightmare in 1,000 different ways, but at least is that day fun when you get to go up and I'd imagine just write on a whiteboard just names of different games that it would be cool to jump to in this game?
What were some of the ones we had, Dom, on the maybe pile?
Return of the Obra Dinn was a big one, because that's just stylistically so unique, and right away you would have been like, oh, I know this place.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool, I think. Undertale, I think, was name dropped. That would have been interesting in terms of being a 2-dimensional experience. Shout out Toby Fox, love you. And others,
Yeah, and others, But then
I don't recall, but I think Firewatch we were excited about. Yeah. That was actually a way older Unity version than we're on, so we had to do a lot of re-importing, fixing things, rebuilding things, but they gave us a really good head start.
So one thing that I wanted to ask about, which seemed like one of the biggest changes from the previous one, just like artistically, is there are so many kind of fake graphics and posters and things in this game. I mean, it's like fake is in quotes because like they're there and they're real, but like I could not believe the volume of kind of like just what looks like advertising for the Stanley Parable 2 that was created for this. And I really feel like that's something that, going back to the original, like those kind of graphic design jokes aren't in it nearly as much. So yeah, what was that like? And also, was that ever considered in like the actual advertising of the game, or was it always just like these are kind of gags?
This is 100% one of the best parts of working with this guy. I'm pointing. I don't know if that's the right.
It's not working. So you gotta point to the other way. It's Dom is the one, not me.
Dom, take it away.
All right, yeah. So when we got the pitch for this ending, this storyline, it was pretty much the expo hall, and then we just figured, if you were to go into this office, like this modernized, weird San Francisco hellscape office, what would you see? And we've been to a few game developer conferences, we've been to a couple of offices like that, and it's just what people do. Really, is that self-obsessed, super branded thing, weird non-pitches on walls. Hey, look at 10 logos we made and stuff like that. So I just had a lot of fun making that extra stuff, like one Photoshop file, 600 layers, and just make posters for a couple hours. And I went to art school. I guess this is what happens when you get like a graphic designer who's been through the ringer of making communications design stuff and marketing. It's a dark place, but I can go there and I can get that stuff back from it.
Yeah, I think the best part about it is like they are so
good. They're really good.
Yeah,
they are good.
It's like I saw all of those, and I mean, it's like the kind of branding of like, okay, our whole thing is 2 doors, and like in the conference center, they've always got 2 doors, and it's like that just feels so legitimate that it's like, oh, this is the direction that if this was made by EA and they put $1 billion into a conference, like this is exactly the that would be there.
No, for real, like I think a couple days ago now, Modern Warfare 2 got another remake announced, and they did the exact same thing where the logo kind of had the 2, like the M and the W, but then the middle bits made like a Roman numeral 2, and that's exactly what I was trying to convey with that stuff. It's just it goes from that to like more deranged things, like what does it look like if a person tries to come up with the number 2 on a whiteboard? Like what do the first attempts look like, as if they designed the number? And it goes into this weird nightmare realm for sure. And I think unironically we could have used that to brand the game Stanley Parable 2 and use those exact same assets.
Yep.
And it would have worked, but I'm glad that we kind of shut it away in like in its own little prison that people can experience on their own and be surprised by it.
I love it. What about on that note, the reviews, professional reviews, the Steam reviews? I mean, are those real?
They're real.
Okay.
They're real. The names are changed.
One of the reviews has our programmer, lead developer Jan's Steam name, and then another one is my friend Olivia, who it's you can just put people's names in there, and it's to protect the original authors pretty much.
Right.
But if you look for them, you can find these reviews.
That's amazing. Have they reached out to you, the people who wrote those original reviews yet?
We get a lot of emails.
Yeah, they all changed their mind, and they said we're sorry and you were right.
Oh, yes.
Do you have surprising reactions to this thing so far? Do you have a favorite reaction, even from like other developers, something that stands out after the release of Ultra Deluxe?
I think my favorite part is always when people, they play the new one and they don't necessarily get to the content yet that is talking about them, but they still get annoyed and they're like, yo, this is barely a remake. This is not a sequel. And it's like, if you'd play the game to completion, you'd realize that this is all about you, and maybe you can learn something from it.
Can we talk about the bucket?
We can. We shall.
I feel like we haven't. So the kind of new content in this is like there are these kind of couple massive new areas where you have like the memory zone and the kind of time jump ending and the expo hall. But then the secret treat is like, I finished that, figured I had kind of finished most of the new content, and then you find out that essentially every single ending in the game has been reworked to include you holding a bucket as part of that. So what, I don't know, when you were writing those, like, I guess was that concept there from the beginning, that you were going to change every ending in the game in some specific way?
Yeah. This from a production standpoint, the starting point was you have your kind of core new content loop, which is from new content part 1, which is where you find the jump circle and then new content door. And that runs through to the end of new content part 2, which is when you enter the Stanley Parable 2. And that's always kind of been in there. The epilogue was in there in a different kind of form as well, from the beginning. And then we also had, a new playtest stuff from the beginning. And then the bucket, what we were going to do was everything along the game's main original paths. We were going to add primarily a dialogue alternate there, so it would change the audio. And then, and the idea was, if we keep it strictly as a dialogue alt, then that means we can do that.
The joke is it's just so much work to do that. That would have been the funny thing about it. But in the end, it's just uneconomical. And I think Davey explained this really well in this stream with his brother Doug. They're brothers, by the way. Who knew? That it started as just every instance of Stanley would be replaced by Stanley and the bucket, and that's the entire thing. But again, as you do that and you go to places again, you realize, oh, there could be an interesting spin on this. And the bucket just sort of evolved into this thing that, created a B version of everything. And that's also cool.
It kind of became how do you say, like an arms race between the different endings, where we would have for the adventure line ending, we want to have it take you to a whole different place with the bucket destroyer and have that gag there. And then instead of the red and blue doors, we're going to have the bucket quiz. And they kind of came first, and they were totally different. They're totally different endings that aren't based on the one that they take you to a whole new map, and they're not alternates at all. They're new. And then we started changing it, the freedom ending and the turning on the mind control turning on the mind control machine, the countdown ending. They previously had bucket alt dialogue records, but then to pretty close, I think in the last year, they got changed first to the silly birds ending, and then we had the freedom ending where you don't actually escape and the door stops, and there's a different ending there and then they each kind of advance trying to outdo each other. So initially the coolest one was the dream ending bucket version, where suddenly a bunch of buckets start appearing in the landscape that you're walking through. And then towards the end, after we'd kind of redone all of the other endings with more bucket stuff, that ends up being one of the more tame bucket endings, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was it a challenge to match the recording style, tone, everything with the actor again? Yeah, I remember on the Nextlander podcast, Vinny over there, formerly from Giant Bomb, he was raving about like that's impossible that they matched the exact tones, that you could not feel a difference with just the age of the actor, with the tech involved. What was that process like?
It's a brilliant composer and audio designer and audio director, Tom Schley, who previously had done a lot of rap production and like music production for a whole bunch of different huge artists in Germany, and his combination of him doing a lot of the mixing and just Kevin Brighting being
consistent,
super professional, and just like master of his craft, and just he's amazing. Like Kevin, I have sent so much shit to Kevin over the years and delivered such a volume of, oh, hey, can you re-record this? Oh, hey, we're changing this bucket ending and this bucket ending and this bucket ending, and you redo these. Hey, yeah, we want to change this. We don't like how you delivered these gags here. Can you redo these? And and then also to stuff like, oh, we want to update this bit of original dialogue. Can you match your delivery from 10 years ago? Can you do that for us? And like,
oh my God.
Like he either just gets it 100%, or like he manages to get it to a point where Tom can do the rest of the work in mix.
Even with all of the challenges, like at his age, your vocal cords change at some point, and then I think he also relocated, probably had a different setup, a different room, different variables all around, and Tom somehow through spectral analysis and weird VST magic made it happen. And I think the consistency between the new and old content is now on par with like the consistency between like different rounds of recording in the old content. So it's really,
because that was recorded over 2 years anyway as well.
Yeah. So. Oh my gosh, that's mind-boggling. The other specifics you wanted to get to, Jacob?
Well, I'm curious. I feel like there is significantly more kind of, I don't know, I weird is too basic of a word, but like there are more kind of abstract and ominous artistic things in this one than in the original. If you think about, like, I don't know, the place where you find the first collectible and it's that weird, like all of the humans like reaching for it, or just the kind of like nowheres that are the time skip ending and the memory zone. Was all that just in kind of like because it seemed funny, or was there like a kind of an effort, or at least kind of like a realization with this that you could get more abstract with the kind of imagery that you're working with?
I think, I loved getting to do that kind of 3D space design. Like that's totally like my favorite thing to do. I think if I could do something all the time, it would be like building different spaces. And like so like the experience of working with everybody in Crows on Accounting Plus, especially, where that was essentially, okay, we've got like 10, 12 completely different areas, like a little a forest, the bottom of a dungeon, the inside of somebody's stomach, like a 8-bit video game hell portal world, like Doom, courtroom drama, all these different things, and getting to like go through the experience, well, first of all with Dom, and then also with like also doing the audio design with Tom, and like a lot of the core team is the same for the new Stanley with Accounting Plus, and then like getting to go into Stanley and be like, okay, we have, unlike in the original where it was like me, Davey, and a couple of other people that whoever we could get, who would be willing to put their time for free up front and and or whoever we could pay. Like, you know, compared to this now, we have like a budget where, you know, a bunch of DOMs, really talented 3D connections, and like could come in and do different parts and animation, and like the ability to think, okay, what if Stanley picks up the bucket with his hands and places it down and then like caresses it and says goodbye to, and you see that, like, that just was never a possibility back in 2012. So getting to do that was really cool. And then
I think also tonally, go on.
No, I was just going to say the getting to play with the different kind of void spaces and all of that, like that's been super fun because it's easy to make because you've only got to make kind of one thing and then the atmospherics for that place. And that's the people reaching out, that big sculpture that was originally made for the bucket. That was the bucket prototype room. And then that didn't end up working. And then the collectibles got added in later. And then we needed a new room for the collectibles, and we ended up going for that, which was fun. Yeah. And like remixing and remashing. Dom, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to say that I think tonally, Crows, you know, is primarily known for doing comedy stuff, funny stuff. But I think we also have a very unique thing going on where our games just have this uncanny vibe to them sometimes. And I think you can tell kind of that since Stanley Parable 2013 came out, we've all played a couple of Dark Soulses and so on, and we've all, you know, been watching this and that. And I think we very like opaquely put references in the game and sort of try and poke at, you know, doing unique combinations of feelings in a game. I think Stanley Parable specifically is really good at having a sort of overall feeling per ending, and we just hadn't explored the horror stuff as much, or what am I supposed to feel right now? You know, the bucket alone has so many weird little aspects to it, from this is my goofy little buddy to this is a really weird manipulative relationship. You know, there's so much to that, and I think we you know, utilizing what we have, you know, and Tom's audio alone does so much of that job. We were just able to place people in that, and it made for a very like visceral response in the end.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about being inspired by other things. And I don't know if you saw this interview with the writer of Severance, but he cited the Stanley Parable as an influence on that show. Did you catch that?
I fucking love Severance. Severance is so I'm such a big fan. I quote tweeted him being like, he posted something about the final episode. I know. I was like, so cool to be watching this while finishing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, hoping that he'd, you know, see that and then give me a follow, or, you know, something like that. But he didn't. He mustn't have. Or, you know, he detected my desperation and was turned off by it. But no, that was so cool, and like I probably shouldn't, but there's been interest about a Stanley Parable TV show.
Oh, really?
That isn't happening. But I'm kind of glad now, because Severance does a smarter version of that than I think would have come out of anything that we had.
Is it not happening?
Detail is that in one of the latest trailers, we actually put green carpet in one of the opening shots just as a counter inspiration thing. So we stole that back. Basically.
That's smart.
It starts in the elevator as well, which I'd never thought about. I think I was like to Tom, I was like, put the Severance Bing in there when the door opens.
Is the Stanley Parable TV show not happening because of Severance? Because
no.
Okay.
Just reasons.
Just frustrating reasons, or how you feel about that?
No, man. No, not really.
Okay.
I'm fine with it. We'll get our own TV show.
Okay.
It is interesting that office hell is such a kind of prominent theme now, where you have Severance, you have this. Control is essentially an entire game that's just what if the office was hell. And I guess happening during a global pandemic is probably just happy coincidence, but like lots of people thinking about how they don't want to go back to work, and like lots of different pieces of media being like, it sucks there.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky that in the meantime, liminal spaces took off in a huge way. You have the whole backroom scene going on.
The whole concept of the backrooms, I've always felt was just like, that's just a picture of the Stanley Parable.
Exactly. It's super weird how it's you have cross contamination going on, and now we're back with this game, and people they'll comment on YouTube, oh, this has such liminal vibes, wow, they made a liminal space game, and it's sort of a new generation of players finding this thing and seeing it sort of flipped thinking it's coming from that.
Yeah.
Can you check that? Do you know this photo? Have you seen this photo before? This is a big liminal space icon. Do you know who took this photo?
No. Okay, do you have the image on screen right now? Let's zoom in to the silhouettes in the middle window.
Okay.
You see those?
I don't know if I can do it on the screen, but I can do it in post. Yeah.
I
zoom in and post, and maybe put a red circle.
Okay, right.
That's me taking the picture.
Really?
Honestly, no joke. That's me and Joe from Crows next to me. This was at 8:15 in the morning after we had a layover in London on our way to GDC San Francisco, and we were just walking around this hotel, and suddenly I had to stop in my tracks because I saw this this exact angle of the hotel, and I was like, I got to take a picture of this because everything else in this building looks super different, really modernized with like nice, tasteful lighting. But then you have this courtyard, whatever it is. It's wild. Anyway, so William and I basically we founded the back rooms and liminal space.
Stanley Parable
movements.
Inside level design. This photo is all together. We own more than 50% of the stock in Backrooms.
Backrooms, where's our money?
That's amazing.
You should sue the Backrooms.
Smart. How are y'all feeling now? I know you don't want to talk about the future in a big way, but William, at this point, can you say confidently we cannot be more done thematically with the Stanley Parable?
Yeah, we're not going to do. There's not going to be more Stanley Parable stuff.
Absolutely, 100%.
Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be new. It's going to be cool. It's going to be exciting. It gives a lot of fresh opportunity for the studio as well financially. We don't have to go running to a publisher for a deal to continue existing.
Right.
So it gives us a bit of bargaining power and free time and choice about what we want to do next, which is exciting. But I think we all have also earned a big holiday.
Yeah.
Stanley Parable's over. I think we both perfected it and ruined it, and that's like 50% opacity of both statements. That's what it is now, and that's it. That's what it's going to be forever.
That's it. That's beautiful. It's a great way to close out. Well, hey, congratulations on a hell of an experience. I hope more people find it and play it because it's so damn good. And I hope y'all are resting now and relaxing and just soaking up the praise.
It's available on Steam, PC, Mac, Linux, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, and also Nintendo Switch. Buy it today.
60 frames per second, flawless. Also really good accessibility settings, and it's a good game. You can't afford not to buy it.
Perfect place to plug it at the end of an hour-long spoiler section. We got it. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening to this interview. If you enjoyed this, you can check out MinnMax's playlist. There's a bunch more interviews that are a little bit like it, or you can just subscribe to MinnMax's channel. Overall, we'd appreciate it. Jacob, Dom, William, thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Internet.
If you thought, hey, this video wasn't bad, well, there's a whole lot more like it on MinnMax's YouTube channel. Please help us out by subscribing to our channel and checking out the MinnMax Show podcast, also available on your favorite podcast app, the best, most thorough discussion about games on the internet with the deepest dive, our monthly community trivia show with prizes called Trivia Tower, and a whole lot more. Thanks so much for your support, everybody. All you gotta do is click that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it.